Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. My name is Jane Atkinson. Today we are talking about how to get noticed by the media. Our title today is Insider Secrets to Attracting the Media. I'm excited. We have a special guest expert, Katrina Cravy. Welcome, Katrina.
Thank you, Jane. I'm really excited to be here with you. This is awesome.
Just kind of off the top, why do you think people want to do more in the media? What do you think would be the advantage to them?
You know, after listening to you and reading your book, everything that you talk about putting yourself as the expert, when you get media coverage, that really puts you in that limelight. It just separates, it puts you in a higher category because everybody obviously assumes the media has done their due diligence and they've chosen you as an expert. So I think that's the biggest thing is getting yourself into that seat.
Right. And we're elevating you from perhaps commodity speaker that could be chosen amongst many to expert, and the expert, what the expert gets paid what the expert charges versus having to compete. It's a whole different level of competition, which is fantastic. So thank you for that. That's a good point that you're making. Let me just give everybody a little bit of your bio, okay?
Okay.
Katrina Cravy is an Emmy Award-winning TV media veteran and author. She's worked as an investigative reporter, anchor, and talk show host for Fox, NBC, and ABC affiliates from Parkersburg, West Virginia to Portland, Oregon. Her book, On Air, Insider Secrets to Attracting the Media and Getting Free Publicity, promises to make you think like the media. And I think that is just what we want to do. We want to kind of crawl inside the heads of someone who's been on the front line and been approached by lots and lots of people to say, hey, highlight me, right? That's what we're after.
Right. And that's how it all started, is because I was asked to speak to this entrepreneurial group. And I usually would give the talk about how I got into journalism and how I became an investigative reporter and how to make sure that I never run after you on the street with a camera and a microphone because you're a bad business owner.
Right.
But I had said that speech so many times that I told my husband, I'm like, I really need to give this audience what they really need. And that was the one question that everybody always asked me, which was, how do I get on your talk show, or how do I become an expert in one of your stories?
Right.
So I gave this talk this night, and it was like 45 minutes. There were about 170 people there. And then afterwards, 30 people lined up with their products in hand to say, well, how would you get in touch with the media about this? And how would you do this? And how would you do that? And this guy from the Better Business Bureau, he was on the board, and he walked over to me and he said, you are sitting on a mountain of information. And you need to start writing this down. Like everything you need to start writing down. And I thought, yeah, well, okay. But then he took me out to the parking lot and walked me to my car. And as I drove away, he was still in my rear view. I mean, he was doing the Superman pose in my rear view. And I thought, he's really serious about this.
He really wants you to do that.
Right. And then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, so I took that 45-minute talk and I just started writing, and that's where the book came from. Mm-hmm. And then I asked the local chapter that really helps out businesses in our area. I said, could I do a couple of different classes and see if this really sells? And we had about 100 people per night. And I thought, I surveyed them all. And then I thought, okay, I've got something here, and this is what I want to work on.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's kind of travel backwards a little bit to your first, big job in the media. You wrote in your bio that you used to wear headgear in high school. I mean, could you ever imagine that for yourself? That must have been a very awkward time in your being. Like, would you have ever imagined that was what you were wanting? Did you practice with the hairbrush in front of the mirror?
I did, to a certain extent. I know headgear, a lot of people are like, what's headgear? Well, that's where you wear braces and you have to actually have the bar in front of your face, and it pulls all your teeth back, So yeah, I was a very awkward teenager, but I was sitting on the beach with my cousin in California, because that's where I'm from, and we were 15 and we were trying to decide what we wanted to do with our lives. And I was the editor of the paper, and I was also in a lot of plays and things like that. And I said, you know, I like both of those. And she said, you're an idiot. You should just be a TV reporter. And I thought, oh, that's a perfect idea for me. So I went and got an internship when I was 17, because back then you didn't have to have college credits. You could just go and volunteer at your local TV station. And they would give me the scripts. This is interesting, Jane. I haven't even thought about this for years. They would give me the scripts after they were done, because I would run the teleprompter for the TV anchors. And then I would get the pieces of paper and I would tape them to my walls in my bedroom. And then I would read them out loud as if I was on TV.
Oh my goodness.
And I was probably, you're right, I was probably like 17, 18. And then I interned for that same station all through college. Whenever I came back for the summers, I interned for them. And then the producer, we were all at a party, and she somehow broke her arm. And because it was typewriters back then, they had to hire me to type for her. And she taught me how to produce a show, because I had to type anything she told me.
So you've got front of the camera and behind the camera experience. This is so helpful. So
yeah, well, you have to be willing to write. You have to be able to write. I think a lot of people think that the reporters and anchors. Yeah, it's never like that. Like, you have to do all the writing and put it all together. And yeah, it's a lot more work than people think. It's more than just the hairspray and the makeup and
And then running the show is even more so on top of that. But let's just give people, what I think is good news, and tell me if I'm wrong here. People in the people in the media need content. And so are they or are they not kind of always looking across the horizon for something interesting for their either viewers or listeners?
They need you so badly. People don't realize how much you need good content to fill the beast. Like we always said, we have to feed the beast. What are we going to feed the beast with today?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Feed the beast.
Yeah. Feed the beast and cover the black, because if we don't have video or things to be on TV, then it's just black. It's
black
dead
spaces.
Air.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't have dead air. So the problem is that for years, I mean, I would get, I don't even know, per day, maybe 50 to 75 email pitches a day. And that so many PR people don't pitch it correctly. Everybody's so worried about being so professional that they forget to be personable. And they write it to this, they write so high level that, we can't understand exactly what you're pitching. You're not simplifying the message. And if we're going to go through a ton of emails, the shorter ones are best. I always thought, man, these companies must have paid thousands of dollars to have a PR person write a page and a half that I'm never going to read.
Right.
I mean, none of us ever read it. So that's one of the reasons I even have on my website, like how to write a media release as one of my freebies, because even all my friends, I went around, it wasn't just me. I went around and talked to the producers and I said, am I right in that this is how a press release should be written so that it's easy to understand? We can make a quick decision, because we need the who, the what, the when right away and what it means to our audience. Everyone forgets that the media has an audience.
The what's in it for them. And so if we start from the idea of the audience, the listener or the viewer, and then work our way backwards from them, we can come up with our hook. And is it typically that you will just say, yes, that's a good hook, we're going to use it? Or will you tweak it you get the gist and then you'll tweak it to suit your own purposes?
Right. We'll get the gist and then we'll tweak it to what we think our audience is really all about. But I would say that subject line, it can't really be any more than 8 to 10 words. It's got to be quick, and it's got to say local. I mean, if you're a local speaker and or you're a national speaker, but you want to get on in whatever locality you're going to go speak, like if you have a gig that you're going to, you ought to see if you can get on to the TV stations. If there's another time, if you're coming in the night before, or you're going to be there in the morning, those are places that you should be hitting with your news releases, or at least quick. I shouldn't even say news releases. Basically, they're just emails to the producer to say, would you be interested in this content?
Right.
And that's what you need to say, like when you're going to be there and what the hook is, which is usually whatever your content is.
Right.
So let's say you're a leadership speaker, then okay, you have some good leadership things to say, but can it be tied into maybe something that's going on nationally?
Right.
You know,
Okay.
and then taking those tidbits and going, okay, this is what the media is talking about right now, and this is what I have to say about what they're already talking about.
Okay, I like it. So I want to workshop something with you. I've got a book title, and I'm just picturing myself sending it over to I don't know that I'll do a big media release on it, but it's the working title, and it's the prequel to The Wealthy Speaker 2.0. And I just chatted with Joe Calloway about this, and I'm just like, I don't know if this is a good title or not. So you want to get paid to speak? Question mark. And I don't know if would it be a good hook?
It depends on the audience of the media. So
Right.
I wouldn't say like local news wouldn't be, local TV news probably wouldn't be. But maybe if you were going to put it in front of like the business journals or the business sections in newspapers.
Right.
If you're wanting to
entrepreneurs, yes.
Okay. Yes, entrepreneurs or business people. I mean, like, let's say the insurance industry, insurance people want to get out in front of people. Anybody who's in sales would want that book because, or want I shouldn't even say want the book. They want a little bit of content from the book.
Right.
So then you would have to backload it and go, okay, then now the business journal would pick that up. Or, what can I teach for sales?
Could I give them a statistic on how many people are getting paid and what kind of fees and stuff like that? Would that get their attention?
Yes, it would get their attention on the back end of the content.
Okay.
Unless let me ask you this. Do you have the statistic? Is that from something like a survey that you've done or a survey that you've seen?
I will have to do the research and make sure that I get something good from somewhere credible. And I don't have it yet, but I will.
Right. Well, I made a pitch when I was on as a guest to a TV station, and I did pitch it with a statistic, and I was pitching the statistic about when people are going for job interviews, what employers say is the number one thing that's hurting millennials and the inability to actually have a conversation. So I forget what the statistic was. It was like 52% of the people that hire say that candidates are not ready to speak one-on-one. So I used that and I said, so I teach, because of course I coach people to be better on camera. I teach these type of interviewing skills, whether it's job interviews or you got a TV interview, it's all pretty much the same. So I just took what I did and then made it for their audience.
Right.
Because that's more general.
Yeah.
So, but I did use a statistic. So I think if you have the right statistic, because then they can have something to jump off of, because it was a recent statistic. It was something that was in the news.
Right.
And when you recent.
Okay, so that's a good point, is when you are getting ready to pitch something, look at what's going on already and see if you can't newsjack that, right?
Exactly. Newsjack it for sure. And the one way I tell people, and I tell my clients this, is that you have to do a Google alert to alert yourself so that you're not constantly looking over the news. Nobody can keep up with everything all the time, not with running our businesses. Yeah. So if you don't know about Google Alert, which most people should, but if you go and just put into Google Alert, it allows you to put in keywords. You put those keywords in for what you think matches the content that you have, and it will constantly tell you about articles that are in your genre.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. I love it. Okay. So one of the things that you're really good at, tell me if this is your sweet spot, really helping people be more succinct with their messaging. Is that kind of one of your sweet spots? Yeah. Okay.
It is, because for 20 years I would interview people and then I would only dissect, how everyone says the media interviews you for half an hour and they take 15 seconds.
Right.
So I think for speakers, we're used to being able to talk for, 45, an hour and a half. If you do a workshop, you're up to 3 to 4 hours. So then you get into a TV situation or a radio interview, which I do radio as well. I'm on the cast of a morning show here in town. And you don't realize it's a conversation. It's got to be quick.
Right.
So then how do you take your small bits of your best information and get those out first. So
Right.
I
You
think
have
that
to
is my
think in
sweet
sound
spot.
bites, right?
Right. And know when to stop.
Right.
There's two things that I think speakers can really run into is you either dominate or you diminish when you get into an interview situation. And either one of those is bad. You have to find that sweet spot and practice being able to just take enough time where you haven't taken over from the host, but don't just give 3-word answers where you're not helping the host.
Okay.
And the host, I mean, I think part of the reason I got into this business is that I sat there for so many years as a talk show host and a news anchor, looking at the person across from me that I was interviewing and feeling sorry for them.
Wow.
Like, oh, if you could just say this, it would be so much better.
Right.
Oh, if you could just say that, this interview would have been great.
Right.
And now I get to write it for people.
Oh,
like
that's
now
great.
I take to clients and I say, okay, say this and let's practice it again and again.
What would be an example of a before and after kind of makeover of that? Do you have, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, so I apologize.
I think where I know where you're going. I think I've got a good one.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so a makeover of a client?
Yes.
Is where you were going to go? Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a client that we started working together where I was just practicing with him how to do a sound bites, and I would get into anchor mode and I would go all, so is it true that you spent this much money? I just would go a little overboard.
Right.
But then what was crazy is he got a call from 60 Minutes.
Ooh.
Who's going to be interviewed by Steve Croft.
Ooh.
And we started practicing for about 7 days straight, hours of doing this. And I said to him at one time, I said, you know what? I said, you're doing great, but you're just you right now. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, I was an investigative reporter that cut through the red tape. So everybody depended on me to do those types of stories. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, when I did that, it wasn't just me. That's Katrina who's going to just go have a beer with you. I said, but I was taking on that feeling of everybody who depended on me. And I said, and they believed in me. And I said, so I don't know how to get that across to you, but I need you to be bigger. And I said, you have 250,000 members for your company. And I said, how many employees? He's like, about 200. And I said, okay, I want you to feel them. I said, can you feel them behind you when you're answering? And so the next day we got back together and he goes, okay, I have a visual for that. And of course, in Green Bay, there's Lambeau Field, one of the big football stadiums. Mm-hmm. And he said, that's 4 Lambeau Fields full of people. And I'm going to be picking up the mic and talking for them on 60 Minutes. And I said, yes. I said, now you get it. So we flew to New York and he walked into the 60 Minute studio. And right before we walked in, he looked at me and he goes, 4 Lambos. And I looked at him and I go, and you nailed this and we'll fill up 4 more. I said, let's go. I'm like, we got this,
Wonderful.
But he got that feeling of being bigger, which I think a lot of people go with that. They want to be humble. They walk into a studio and they feel like a guest.
Right.
And you really need to feel like the host because you know your information better than anyone else. And the host, not for 60 Minutes, but for some of these local shows, might not have done all the research, might just be like handed the information during the commercial break.
Right.
And you're not going to let somebody like that run the show for you. You've got to run your own show.
Okay. So you're saying kind of what's your terminology around that? Be yourself, only bigger?
Yes. That's great terminology, Jane. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that for all my clients. You need to be bigger. Yeah, thank you. I'm writing it down as we speak.
All right. I love it. So you've given us some really good news in terms of what people, feeding the beast and knowing that. And so I would say we just want to start getting out there and being more visible to our local media. And you know what? I'm almost speaking to myself here. I live in a fairly small town. nobody knows I'm here. They did a story on me years ago that, I used to be a waitress and now I'm a big time coach and what have you. But other than that, like, I've never really been featured and I don't really talk about what it is I do. I really should be guest, speaking at the School of Business here, and I don't do that. You're kind of making me think, hey, Jane, maybe you want to do something. I guess it's because I don't really deal locally very much that I haven't really thought
No,
about it. But
right. You don't deal locally, but think of all the places that you go.
right.
You
Right.
you travel to conferences, you do all of these things. You could
Right.
be out there for sure talking to people. And we all know that public discourse and our ability to speak for everybody, just as a general audience, is declining.
Mm.
I mean, you have so much to offer that you could probably be on any media or be interviewed in any magazine just on that basis alone.
Well, I'm more inspired by the idea with the next book potentially coming out. I'm going to write it this
Mm-hmm.
summer, and so perhaps after that, I'll get a little bit more inspired to do it. I always want to have a purpose, and so I think the
Right, right, right.
idea of getting paid to speak might be something that is actually media worthy as well, and so that kind of
Yeah.
that kind of excites me. Okay, so
No, that's good. And that's a good call to action. But if you want to get in touch with more of your local, like in every city, usually there's a press club. I'm part of the Milwaukee Press Club, and they do
okay,
events. And if you want to go and meet real media people face to face,
right,
it's just like anything else. You need to create a relationship with the
right,
media, and they're just people. I mean,
yes,
they need you. They want to meet you. And if anyone recognizes somebody that's on TV, I would say go over there and talk to them. I
hmm
mean, don't take up a ton of their time, but hand them a business card and say, hey, this is what I do, and just love your
right,
show. And I think that's part of it is that I tell people all the time, we never got on TV because we didn't want anyone to notice us.
right.
I mean, let's be real here.
Yeah.
But I think that you got to try to find those events and
hmm
go build those relationships, and then start slowly. You can
Yeah.
follow. I do an Attract the Media talk, and I'm actually doing it for the Wisconsin chapter of the National Speakers Association.
Oh,
And I
good.
say never. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I say never in the history of mankind could you lightly stalk somebody as easily as you can right now.
Uh,
So I would say start following some of your local media people on Twitter and Facebook and
right.
see what they love, see what they're messaging about. Get into conversations with them because they want people to interact on their social media just like everybody else does. And then you are getting a relationship where they recognize your name when you suddenly meet them out somewhere.
Very good. That's excellent. That's very good. Good tips. So, did we cover it thoroughly? The top 3 tips to be succinct in our messaging for wrapping our messages into a bow.
I don't know if we did. Let's talk about those 3 tips. So
Okay.
I would say that number one, I think we kind of went all over.
Okay.
I would say, great, we weren't very succinct.
Oops.
I know, whoops. Okay, I think the biggest thing is to make that subject line short, but
Okay.
you need to start with the very first thing of know your audience. Know what the media, whatever media you're contacting, who is their audience?
Who is their audience? Okay, good.
Who
That's
is
really
their
good.
audience? So that
All
would be
right.
the number one thing.
All
So
right.
does your message, number 2, does your message fit their audience?
Does it fit?
They
Okay.
may not be the right media.
Right.
Like you're not going to send something, especially if it's like a trade magazine, you're not going to send something about the airline industry to
Mhm.
something completely different.
Right.
That's just not something you would do.
Right. Most
And
of us
then
are probably aiming towards business mags, uh, different business publications or shows, right?
right, and different associations inside those businesses, I
Right.
would say. And
Okay.
all of them have those newsletters that need the content.
Okay.
And then I would say that the email has got to be quick.
Okay.
And it's got to say maybe 2 sentences. I always say to make it really succinct, you need to personalize it. Tip number 3, it has to be personalized.
Okay.
Mass media, we can smell a mass mailing. I think
Ah,
everybody can,
sure.
but we can all smell that you have sent this to everyone. And we
Okay.
all want to feel like we're given that little gift to unwrap that gift, it's only to us.
Oh, really?
So I would say that you need to, A, know the person's real name that you're sending this email to.
Mm-hmm.
Put the name of the show or the name of the newspaper or the name of the magazine or the name of the radio station and the show that you're going to want to be on into the email so that it's personalized. And then have the what you can bring to their audience. The what has got to be really high up there.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I can offer to your audience.
Right. Good.
And that's the biggest thing. So you really want to make sure that your message is on key with that particular medium and what they really need for their audience.
I love it. I remember Kendra Hall, she sent out these 600 emails that we've talked about on this podcast before, and she sent them a lot to the American Marketing Association, and her topic was storytelling. And she'd say, I think that she'd put the subject line, I think of the actual conference in the subject line, so a little bit of personalization there. And she'd say, I think that my topic of storytelling, the proper title of it is a great fit for your ABC conference, and let me tell you why. And then she went on from there, and I just love those words, and let me tell you why. Why does that work?
It works because it's conversational and it's right to the point. And it's saying, let me tell you why, and I'm going to make this quick because I know your time's valuable.
Yeah, good.
And I think that everybody has to realize time is valuable. And yes, you might be able to write a really beautiful long email that's too professional. I mean, one time I got an email that said from the National Pollinators Association, that pollination, whatever. And I bring this up in my talk. I'm like, if they would have just said the bees are dying and our grocery bills are going up, right? But they didn't do that. They tried to be too professional. And I think so I love what she says. And I think she's got a lot of great information.
Okay, good.
Conversational. You have to be conversational.
What is the term earned media?
Earned media is something that I didn't even know what it meant, but I was being earned all the time. It's basically, you have to give a really good story idea for the media to pick up on it. Now, public relations professionals, they call it earned media because earned media is you've made a good pitch and you did not need to pay for the media. We just naturally did a story about you because it was so good. Your pitch was so good. Okay. Now, with earned media, though, you do not have the right to write the story. I tell clients, like, you create the nice, shiny puzzle piece that the media can use.
Plug in.
Now, how they put that into the puzzle is up to them. And you can also have a really bad puzzle piece because I teach crisis communication and some people choose to say no comment and that makes it worse.
Okay. I got you. Okay. So it's when they
and paid media
you've pitched. Okay. And then there's also this kind of secondary idea where you can say, okay, I'm going to kind of like pay for performance PR, where they will then write the story for you and you're kind of the hero of the story, and they'll pitch it to a bunch of media outlets. And I've had that to be quite successful for me before. Right.
Yeah. And you can do that. And paid media, you get to control the storytelling, but it's also placed in different places where it's sponsored by.
Right.
Usually the reader or the viewer can tell that you've sponsored the material.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's just different. I try to talk to people about the fact of realizing, like, getting into the actual show and not being part of the commercial.
Right.
That's amazing. When you can get 3 minutes of content on a local talk show, you'd never be able to pay for that in its commercial breaks.
I love that.
And you're actually into the show. And I think people don't realize that. If you just did a little extra work and personalized those pitches, you could be getting some incredible TV time. And then the other thing too, TV, radio, taking segments of that and then blasting it all over your social media continually to create that credibility and to create you being an expert again and again and again once you've edited that up.
That's really good. It's kind of similar to the concept of, rather than having a booth at a trade show, be the speaker on the main stage. That's our goal, is to be up on the stage rather than out selling in a booth, because you're in a
Right.
different, you're positioning yourself kind of with higher level of expertise. Now, some people will do both, which I think is good. And then you can drive people back there. Okay, so
Right.
have we covered the misconception of earned media?
I don't know if there's a misconception of earned media. I think the misconceptions for a lot of people is, like I said, that the media doesn't need you. I think the biggest misconception is that people are afraid to reach out to the media because you know how your mind plays. We've all got those gremlins in our brain that are telling us that, you're not worthy. But the media really does need you. That is a huge misconception. They do need you, and they need your content, because without having some local content, they'd dry up. They wouldn't have the ability to have the broadcast or the publication anymore. So you really need to do that. And then the other thing I would think is that they're completely knowledgeable about what you're doing when you come on. You have to be the educator sometimes, and you really have to think, what can I teach? Not only to the host, but to the viewers.
That's really good. So let's say you want to ultimately be on Good Morning America or be a writer for the Huffington Post or something like that, but you want to start somewhere. You can start local, can you not? And then start working your way out?
Right. I would definitely say start local, because you don't want to get on a Good Morning America and then not do well and, crawl back into your cave and never come out again. That would not be what we want. We do not want that. No. But I would say to start local, and there are some ways for you to find about where reporters are looking to get a quote. And I don't know if you've heard of Help a Reporter Out.
Oh, yes, Haro, Haro. Just Google that. And we'll put it in the show notes too, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good place to go for people to get started and to realize what the media is looking for. I never used it. People ask me, when you're a reporter, did you ever use that? I did not use it, but it's not to say I wouldn't. One thing I do think people should definitely do is make sure that your social media is cleaned up. Because once you send me a really good email release and I'm like, oh, I'm interested in their subject, now I'm going to Google you. And now I'm going to try to find whatever I can find on you to see if you're reputable and to see if I do want to put you or quote you. And I would say that you got to make sure your pictures are good and do not have anything of your personal open. Because as soon as I see some of that stuff, I'm like, we had a life coach guy one time get in touch with me, and I went to look at him on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, which is supposed to be highly professional. And there was a picture, his profile picture was a girl hanging off of him at a bar.
Oh.
And I just went, we can't have him on. I can't put this on. And so I would say go and do a complete social media analysis of yourself, or have someone else do it.
Through the media's eyes to see how professional you look.
Right. And any association that you can have with another group, like let's say that you are a psychologist or somebody who wants to get into that speaking space. Are you affiliated with a hospital? Or is there somebody else that's willing to sign off on you?
Okay. Because you're constantly looking to cross your T's and dot your I's. You want to make sure you're having people credible, because the backlash of not is probably pretty quick to happen these days, right?
Oh, yes. It's bad. And that's the thing. The station doesn't want to seem liable for that. Like if you are a person that's taking care of, somebody's continual liar, and then we find out you lied on your resume, we want to hope that the hospital is more, and that's their problem and not ours. They put you up as the expert and not us.
Right. Well, everything has changed, and I know the media has changed because of social media, and it's like everything happens so fast these days. So what's one thing that you could say people could do that might, be something that could potentially go viral or be a bit of a game changer for their career? What's something you've seen from your own client group?
that's gone viral. You do have to do things that are different to get the media's attention. And I guess, well, one thing that just went viral here locally is a reporter did a hook shot backwards while he was talking to the anchors for the Harlem Globetrotters here in town. And it was from half court, and he was holding a microphone, and he hit it. It went in.
Wow.
So I really tried, which was crazy. And of course, everything went crazy, and it made it onto ESPN, and everybody here locally is talking about it. But it's because you created a moment. You did something that you were doing something fun. And when I work with my clients, I don't want them to do sit down interviews. There is nothing more boring than that. So you've got to come up with something that you can demonstrate or do, and then be okay when something either goes horribly wrong or horribly right. And either one of those can go viral.
Either one of them is an opportunity, potentially.
It is. It's an opportunity. And I tell people, love the mistakes.
Right.
The mistakes are when we're going to actually see the real you.
Right.
So be okay with that. And you'll be, I had somebody walk into the studio one time, and she's like, I think if I barfed right now, you'd be all right with it. I said, well, you'd go viral. I said, I know you're nervous. I said, but if you choose to, vomit, we're good with that. It's totally fine.
Funny. Oh.
And then she started laughing, and I got her out of that funk because I'm like, it'll be fine. You'll be fine.
This is a little kind of aside, even for just general speaking. I was doing a body pump class, and the microphone, you know how the girls wear the headsets when they're running classes, and the mic on the headset didn't work. And the girl had so much fun with it that it just didn't matter. And her stock rose incredibly. So when something goes wrong, number one, have a plan. And number two, have some fun with it, because there's not a lot you can do.
No, there is not a lot you can do. And you just have, and you're right. People just like you to roll with the punches. People just want to know that you care enough to be funny or not take yourself so seriously.
Seriously, exactly. Okay. Well, boy, this was a lot of information, and I'm so excited that you've been here. People are going to want to get in touch with you, Katrina Cravy. So tell me how people should do that.
Well, the best way would be to go to my website, which I know Cravy can be weird to spell. Katrina's with a K, but Cravy, think crazy, but with a V. So Katrina Cravy. And then it's also, I have a landing page of getontvforfree.com. So that can help people if you can't think of how to spell the name. It's no problem.
Wonderful. And we're going to, you mentioned something earlier that you had about how to write a press release, and we'll have Monica put that in the show notes as well. So
that'd be great. And no problem.
And
I was going to offer.
Let's mention your book again too.
Yes, it's on air, Insider Secrets to Attract the Media and Get Free Publicity. And I have, within the last 9 months, gone on Audible, and I have some codes that I can give away. So for the 3 people from your audience who would like the book and like it for free on audio, just email me through our content page, and I will get that to you.
Fantastic. I love Audible. I'm a big fan. My credit just came in, so maybe I'll have to rush over and grab that book, because I'll be needing some inspiration once my book is ready. Awesome.
No problem. I'll get you the code, Jane. And I loved my Focus 40 with you, by the way. I want everyone to know it was great to just get me focused, and it was just perfect. So I just appreciate all the information that you give to all of us.
Well, thank you so much. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your time.
No problem. It was great. Thank you.
And Wealthy Speakers, if you've enjoyed our podcast today, leave us a rating, leave us a review. We would love to hear from you. Subscribe so you don't miss out, whether it be on iTunes or Stitcher or I forget where else we are. And come on over to our podcast page if you ever want to see the notes. It's at speakerlauncher.com. You can click on podcast. And with that, we will say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speakers Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit, and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.